Tears and smiles at airport arrivals, but concerns remain about the government's rules on departures. As a relaxation of some quarantine rules bring happy reunions, industry bosses warn the government plans to change other rules could ruin summer holidays.
So creating these additional levels or additional tiers of restrictions that potentially may come or come not are just fueling this ongoing uncertainty.
Also this lunchtime, an 11th goal for Great Britain as the show jumpers leap to glory in Tokyo. 2 adults and a 13-year-old boy are arrested on suspicion of murdering a 5-year-old in South Wales. And the race to get tourists and residents to safety as wildfires continue to rage on in Turkey.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. There were emotional scenes in airport arrival halls today as COVID travel rules were relaxed for visitors to the UK who've been double jabbed from the United States and the EU. But the changes over foreign travel aren't over. Later this week, the government is expected to announce a watch list for some destinations. Ministers say it will allow us to make informed decisions over where to visit this summer. Others believe it will cause chaos in an industry that's already struggling through the pandemic. Here's our political correspondent, Carl Dinham.
Travel isn't just about holidays. There were emotional reunions at Heathrow this morning as the first fully vaccinated travellers from the United States were allowed to return without quarantine.
Just so overwhelmed, I'm so happy. Oh, it's been so long and FaceTime isn't the same. It's a hug and it's, 2 years, nearly 2 years, isn't it?
The change in the rules applies to travellers from the United States and Amber List EU countries, apart from France. But there is speculation that the government is planning to add a new category to the traffic light system, an Amber Watch List of countries at risk of going on the red list.
Giving people a sense of which direction a country may or may not be heading in, I think is an extra piece of information that allows people to make decisions with as much of their own data as possible. That seems to me to be the compassionate, sensible approach.
But it's thought Spain could be one of the countries being considered for any Amber Watch list, and there are concerns that other major holiday destinations like Greece and Italy could follow. But flagging that they're at risk of going onto the red list is likely to collapse bookings, so the travel industry is firmly opposed.
Creating these additional levels or additional tiers of restrictions that potentially may come or come not are just fueling this ongoing uncertainty for the consumer confidence and the ability to make plans for the summer holidays.
Would this not be helpful to consumers because it would show them which countries were potentially about to change and allow them, it would give them more information to make up their minds?
Normally, you would still plan a holiday at least a couple of weeks out and, hopefully trying to take advantage of a summer holiday. So having this uncertainty, it just puts people in limbo.
And with just 6 to 8 weeks left of the peak holiday season, travel industry representatives say tens of thousands of jobs are already at risk in their beleaguered sector.
So, Carl, when do we expect to hear the government's decision on any changes to the travel rules then?
Well, the word is that ministers are due to meet on Thursday to decide whether or not to go ahead with this new watch list. But it's not just travel industry representatives who are against it. Quite a number of senior Conservative backbench MPs have come out quite vocally against the idea. And a number of cabinet ministers are also said to be opposed to it, including the Chancellor himself, Rishi Sunak, who over the weekend, we were told, wrote formally to the Prime Minister telling him that Britain's travel restrictions were too tight and were tighter than other similar countries and needed to be loosened. So it doesn't look necessarily like this idea will come into force if opposition to it in government is strong enough. And also, however well-intentioned it may have been, it just doesn't look particularly well-ordered policy making to be changing these rules slap bang in the middle of the summer holidays.
All right, Carl, thank you. To the Olympics now, where Great Britain's equestrians have won their first team eventing gold medal in 49 years. It's taken Team GB's tally to 11 gold medals and 33 overall, and there could be more to come. After winning as a team this morning, they're now competing against each other in the individual event and are well placed to add to that tally. Well, Sangeeta Lal has all the details on another big day in Tokyo.
For Team GB's eventing team, this was the perfect success story. All riders made their Olympics debut. So dominant through the games, though, they were almost guaranteed a goal. All Oliver Townsend had to do was complete his round. Nothing knocked them off the top spot, and for the first time since 1972, Britain's eventing team won gold.
Yes! 49 years! Great Britain have waited for their eventing gold medal, and now they have produced the perfect performance.
In the women's floor final, competing individually, the Gadirova sisters finished 6th and 7th.
Tumble on the way, here it comes, double straight. Oh, perfect landing.
As a team, though, they won bronze, and with 32 medals in total now, Team GB has made its most successful start ever at an Olympic Games.
Everybody back in the camp is delighted, and we know there's a lot more to come, and we've had some fantastic results, and we've had more medals across more sports than any other nation that's competing against us.
Hoping to no doubt change that, Simone Biles, who today announced she's returning to the Tokyo Olympics to compete in the women's beam final tomorrow. It'll be the first time she's taken part in the Games since withdrawing early to protect her mental health. For Team GB, though, all eyes now are on the individual eventing final. After competing together to make history today, they'll be taking to the stage alone, with Townsend starting the show jumping phase in silver medal position. He'll hope to claim his own for the first time at an Olympics. Sangeeta Lal, ITV News.
Well, let's get more on that eventing gold. We're joined now by Helen West, who is Chief Executive of British Eventing and knows the team very well. Helen, thanks so much for joining us this lunchtime. Great news, another gold for Team GB. This one particularly significant, though, because it's Britain's first gold medal in this event since Munich 1972.
It certainly is. As you can imagine, we are so excited. It's nearly 50 years since Great Britain won gold, Olympic gold for the eventing discipline. In 1972, yes, our gold medal team was Richard Mead, Mary Gordon-Watson, Bridget Parker and Mark Phillips. And it's taken us, yes, this time to repeat that success. The three team members over in Tokyo have done a phenomenal job. It's just such a team effort. I cannot emphasize enough. Owners, riders, grooms, everybody, it's a massive team effort.
Well, it is, isn't it? And Helen, I wanted to talk to you about the team because you do know them and they are a real mix, aren't they? And some of them making their Olympic debut. All three are making their Olympic debut.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got Oliver Townsend, who is the world's #1. So, it's incredible to think he hasn't actually ridden at an Olympic yet. But all three are making their Olympic debut. And I think for me, what they have is such a strong relationship with the three horses that they've got out there. All three of these riders have produced these horses from young horses. They've ridden them for years and they have a very, very established relationship with them. And I think that's really, really shone through because they know those horses very well. And it's so exciting, it's so exciting. The horses are gold medal athletes as well.
They are.
They're huge personalities.
Well, they do, and of course they're all part of that team. But just very quickly, we've got more to look forward to because they do stand a good chance of more medals in the individual equestrian events later today.
Yes, they do. So they go into the individual show jumping with Oliver Townsend in silver medal position, Tom McEwen in bronze and Laura Collett in 5th position. And there's barely one pole down between the top 4. It is so tight. So it's going to be very, very nail-biting stuff.
All right. Well, listen, Helen West, thank you so much for joining me and hopefully more medals on the way later today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, being an Olympian no doubt comes with its physical challenges, but there have been more signs today of the toll competing can take on an athlete's mental well-being. Adam Peaty has become the latest Olympian to announce he's taking a break from sport to prioritise his mental health, and he's certainly not alone. Last week, Simone Biles also put competing on hold, although she's announced plans to return tomorrow. Elsewhere, England footballer Tyrone Mings revealed that he struggled with mental health problems during the Euros 2020s, and cricketer Ben Stokes also announced he's taking a break from sport. Well, joining me now to talk more about this is Dr. Misha Jervis, who is a sports psychologist and founding member of the British Olympic Association Psychology Advisory Group. Misha, thanks so much for joining us this lunchtime. Can we start with swimmer Adam Peaty, because he's the latest elite athlete, if you like, who's spoken up and said he's taking a break. He successfully defended his gold in Tokyo, announced he's taking this break for his mental well-being, has had to already go on Twitter and say, you know, unfortunately, there are people out there who think they know you more than you know yourself. Why is there such a backlash or a stigma, as he described it, around mental well-being in sport?
I think that it's because we tend to put these athletes on a pedestal. We think that they're superhumans, and we don't expect them to experience the same frailties that we do. But of course, this is not true, because they're human like all of us. And actually living in that elite, rarefied environment of competitive sport is a really big ask. And it's not surprising that some of these vulnerabilities are going to surface.
It's interesting as well. We look at Tyrone Mings, obviously, who played with the England football team at the Euros recently. You know, he said that he struggled post the Euros, and we're at the point where we need more of a support system for elite athletes out there, because especially after these huge events, there's so much build-up, and then all of a sudden it's over, and you're not necessarily walking away with the win or the gold medal either, are you?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's something that's referred to as the post-Olympic blues, and it is literally that coming down from a big event and having to navigate through those difficult thoughts and feelings that will inevitably show up. Plus, you're doing it in such public scrutiny that you're having to navigate through all of that criticism as well.
Good evening. Welcome
so,
to
of course, it's really, really difficult. And I think sport is slowly waking up to the fact that actually psychological support should be normalised, should be readily available, and should just be part of, so psychologists, sports psychologists should be just part of the normal support team in every elite sports setting.
And also, obviously, we know that gymnast Simone Biles announced today that she is going to be back competing tomorrow, but she pulled out of all the individual events in Tokyo. But what she did, you know, as well as the others, is to shine their spotlight on the fact that these athletes, you know, we all have mental health, don't we? So not just these athletes, but it kind of trickles down, doesn't it? So it kind of does the whole general conversation some good with them speaking up.
Absolutely. I think what's different is that athletes now are finding their voices. And they're using their voices, and they're speaking about things that previously would be very, very well hidden, and that there would be a lot of shame around mental health vulnerabilities. But now, and I think to some extent, COVID has changed our understanding of this, because mental health has been talked about more frequently, more regularly. So we're not so fearful of it, maybe.
All right. Well, listen, Dr. Misha Jervis, thank you so much for talking to us this lunchtime. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're back to Tokyo later in the programme. Gymnast Max Whitlock explains why defending his Olympic title was his toughest challenge yet.
It's 10 times harder getting a title after a title, so I'm massively proud to do it.
First on to the rest of the day's news, and tributes have been paid to a 5-year-old found dead in a river in South Wales. 2 adults and a teenager have been arrested on suspicion of murder. Well, Geraint Vincent is at the scene in Bridgend. Geraint, the tragic case, what more can you tell us?
Well, a great many tributes, Lou, have been left here in the form of cards, flowers and teddy bears in memory of a young boy who's been named locally as Logan. He was 5 years old, and he was described to me by a neighbour this morning as a happy, friendly, lovely lad who would always wave and smile when I walked past. His body was found in the River Ogmore here very early on Saturday morning, and this is a stretch of river where detectives are still very much looking for clues as to what might have happened to Logan. Police divers have been deployed here this morning, and police are appealing for any witnesses who might have been in this area at around 5:45 a.m. on Saturday to contact them. Police continue to question a 39-year-old man, a 30-year-old woman and a 13-year-old boy in connection with the death. Police say they're not looking for anyone else in what they describe as an extensive and sensitive inquiry.
All right, Geraint, thank you. An inquest has opened into the death of a convicted terrorist who was killed by police in South London in February last year. Sudesh Aman stabbed 2 people in a street in Streatham before he was shot dead. He'd recently been released from prison after serving half of his sentence for terror offences. Well, Neil Connery is at the Royal Courts of Justice in London. Neil, what was said in court?
Well, we had a brief outline from the coroner on the events surrounding all of this. He said that Sudesh Aman, who was 20, was shot dead by police after stabbing 2 people in an apparent terrorist attack in February 2020. Aman was under surveillance after being released from Belmarsh prison, where he'd served a sentence, as you say, for terrorist offences. Now, he'd been living in a probation hostel in the days before the incident, and surveillance officers saw him buy a knife and materials for a possible suicide belt on the 31st of January. Now, 2 days later, Aman left that hostel, goes into a store on the Streatham High Road. He grabs a 20-centimetre kitchen knife and runs from the shop. He's followed by an armed surveillance officer who shouts, "Stop, armed police." In the next 60 seconds, Aman runs along the road. He stabs a woman in the back and further along stabs a man. Another surveillance officer then joins the chase and fires shots, but Aman is still running. Both officers then open fire and they hit Sudesh Aman, who is later pronounced dead. Now,
time is running out for Cyprus. It needs a bailout deal tonight.
Belt, but experts soon established it was actually a hoax. Now, Detective Superintendent Dominic Murphy told the inquest that there were concerns raised while Aman was in prison that he retained an extremist mindset. In December 2019, there were handwritten notes in Arabic found in his cell showing that him to be a broad believer of so-called Islamic State. This inquest continues.
Neil, thank you. Wildfires are continuing to rage for a 6th day in Turkey, with tourists evacuated and residents forced to leave their homes. At least 8 people are now known to have died, with firefighters battling to contain and control more than 100 separate fires. Sharon Thomas has the latest.
It's hard to discern whether it's day or night here in the city of Muğla in the far southwest of the country. Residents call desperately to their animals. And on the beach, tourists and locals alike do what they can to escape the approaching flames. Others driving wherever they can escape to. Some trying to protect what is, at the moment, still standing. Many flee on foot, knowing the strong winds are only exacerbating fires that have now been burning for 5 long days. I feel so much pain, this woman says, like I lost a child. This village was completely surrounded by fire and smoke, he says. The local mayor can hardly believe the devastation being meted out here by Mother Nature and talks to some of the hundreds of residents who've been evacuated from their homes to a local sports stadium. 10 miles south in the tourist resort of Bodrum, a helicopter scoops up vital supplies from the Aegean Sea to douse nearby holiday homes. And back on the ground, police water cannon, usually used to control riots, assist flat-out fire trucks. More than 100 wildfires have now been brought under control here, but with a heat wave across southern Europe and temperatures expected to climb to 42 degrees today, this is a ferocious battle not yet won. Sharon Thomas, ITV News.
It stays pretty warm as we go into Wednesday.
Finally, this lunchtime, we return to Tokyo, where Max Whitlock has been telling us about the thrill of winning another gold medal on the pommel horse. The gymnast has now won 6 Olympic medals overall, but he told our sports editor editor Steve Scott. Yesterday's win was the most nerve-wracking of them all.
You know, my final march out to the pommel final wasn't until about 6:45 in the evening, and that day was difficult. I was on the phone to my family just before I was starting to warm up, and I could hardly even talk. Like, I couldn't get words out too much. I didn't even make too much conversation because the nerves throughout the whole day just built and built and built. So, yeah, a bit of a whirlwind day, but to finish it like that was incredible.
And you felt nervous, more nervous than ever?
That was the most nervous I've ever been for any competition I've done in my whole life.
Can you put that down to anything in particular?
Expectancy.
Good evening, welcome to ITV
my
News
own
Time
pressures
Tees.
in
These
terms
are
of, I
tonight's
think
headlines.
What I realised, and I've only just realised it recently being out in Tokyo, is seeing all the Team GB athletes come through with medals, with golds, achieving what they really wanted to, achieving their dreams. And I feel like as an athlete, because I've done it before, I could relate to their feeling. I could really know what that felt like. And I feel like that put huge amounts of pressure on me from myself to really want to try and get that again. So it was all from myself, and I think, yeah, obviously expectation pressure from the outside sources, that's definitely there, but I think it's 10 times harder getting a title after a title, so I'm massively proud to do it.
What does it mean to you to have the amount now, standing here with the amount of medals you've got in your locker back home?
It's crazy. I said it earlier, it doesn't feel like these are my results. It doesn't feel like it's me that, you know, people introduced me into that way. It's a really strange feeling. Yeah, standing here with my 6th Olympic medal is just so surreal, crazy. I don't even know how to put it into words. It was one of the kind of times, actually, I was lost for words. I didn't even know how to react after I won the medal. Incredible. I just, feels very, very strange, but amazing.
First, there are fears tonight that Max Whitlock speaking to our sports editor, Steve Scott. And we'll have more from Tokyo at 6:30, including details of 2 more silver medals won while we've been on air. I'll be back for that. But for now, from everyone here on the Lunchtime team, bye-bye.